Today's episode is brought to you by the Whole Life Decluttering Workshop, featuring a proprietary 6-step system, the Simple System, to help you declutter your life in a way that will last. Purchase this workshop on demand and receive the video training and dedicated workbook at positivelyproductive.com/resources. It's time to evaluate your choices when it comes to what you let into your life. That is the habit you need to be so careful with. The habit of accepting too much and not considering what it means, that's the habit that we need to break. See, way too often you're opening the door too wide and clutter will come flooding back in. I bet you know exactly what I mean. Have you ever decluttered and organized a space and been thrilled with it, only to have it revert back to how it started, or maybe even worse than when you began? You're listening to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zawrotny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a productivity coach certified in positive psychology and stress management. Join me as we explore ways to live a more proactive, positive life with episodes on productivity, self-awareness, mindset, entrepreneur life, habits and systems, simplicity, fun, and more. I understand overwhelm personally as a multi-passionate entrepreneur, wife and mom to kids and cats, and as a caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and we're continuing our clutter conversation by focusing on a habit I've seen undermine my clients repeatedly. This habit is sneaky because it's not only simple to do, society encourages us to do so, which adds insult to injury. Like the band Chicago said, it's a hard habit to break. But today we're going to talk about why it's a habit you definitely need to break and what you can do to fight the good fight. Before becoming a productivity coach, I worked for years with clients to help them declutter and organize their homes, and I learned so much about how to help people find a way to declutter that works for their individual lifestyle. Clutter is incredibly personal. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation. Yet so many experts offer exactly that as a solution. This is the way to do it. This is what worked for me. You need to do this. Well, I knew the most valuable thing that I could do for others would be to offer customized help, which is what I've been doing as a coach. But then I thought, how can I help the DIYers? It's not a matter of saying, do it this way. It's a matter of saying, do it the best way for you. So how do I help you figure that out? That's where my framework comes in. I created a set of questions that my audience could ask themselves, and the answers would help them design their own systems that fit their lives and systems that they could actually maintain. While effective systems are important, sustainable systems are essential, and that's my focus. In episode 246, I share this framework that I designed almost a decade ago. It's called the Simple System, and it's been so popular I developed an on-demand workshop based on it, where I apply it to all types of clutter in our lives. I titled it Whole Life Decluttering, Make Space for What Matters. And in this 60-minute workshop, you'll learn what clutter actually is, its links to stress, types of clutter that affect your whole life, and my proprietary 6-step system, the Simple System that we're talking about today. Well, we're talking about one aspect of that today. And you can find this on the resources page of the positivelyproductive.com website. And I'll link to that in the show notes as well. So in that recent episode, I go through the acronym SIMPLE and explain how each part works. S is set yourself up for success. I is identify the space and purpose. M is to match like with like so you can see the big picture and know what you're dealing with. P is to pare down. The actual decluttering process begins at that point. Always a surprise when you think that there's a lot more that you need to do prior to that to make the decluttering more effective. And then L is to limit further based on the space you are working with. Someone who has a one-bedroom flat in New York City is going to be decluttering a lot differently than someone who lives in a farmhouse in upstate New York. Each of these are aspects of learning about ourselves and our purpose and using classic tactics to simplify the space in question. But today we're going to focus on that last letter. This is one that I talk about, but I don't know if we always put enough emphasis on it, so I wanted to feature it. It's the E in simple, and it stands for evaluating. Now, part of that is assessing how you've done with the decluttering. Did it work? How does it feel? How is the space working for you? Did you do enough? Do you need to do more? That's great. You always want to debrief after you do a project. But what is likely the most important aspect of this evaluating is what comes into your life. You want to think of this system, or really any system that you do with regard to decluttering and organizing, as almost a cyclical system. It's not only that you are creating a system and designing a space for yourself, but you are also designing the habits that go with it, because life keeps lifing you. Things are still coming in as you are trying to send things out. This means understanding how you create your own clutter and how you accept things into your life, often without realizing it. It's time to evaluate your choices when it comes to what you let into your life. That is the habit you need to be so careful with. The habit of accepting too much and not considering what it means, that's the habit that we need to break. See, way too often you're opening the door too wide and clutter will come flooding back in. I bet you know exactly what I mean. Have you ever decluttered and organized a space and been thrilled with it, only to have it revert back to how it started, or maybe even worse than when you began? What a shame it is to work so hard to declutter and organize your space, whether it's cleaning out a closet, reducing the papers on your desk, clearing out your inbox, or slashing your task list to something far more productive, only to have it all fill back up. So the question then becomes, why is it filling back up? Are you struggling with the space because it feels too cold and open? We've been taught that these wide open spaces, especially in like physical buildings, are cold instead of warm. Are you purchasing more things because you feel like you can, or maybe because of retail therapy? I get it. I do it too. Are you saying yes to more requests because you don't feel like you can keep saying no, or because even you have this perception that now that you've reduced so much of what you do, you have the time again? Are you perceiving the space that you have in your life, whether it's in a room or on your calendar, anywhere in your life? Are you perceiving that amount of space that you have to work with correctly? There's a strange psychological response we have to space in our lives. We have this perception of blank areas as negative, and we call it empty. And empty is something that I don't think we want to feel. It's a common response to want to fill it back up. So yeah, we don't want the clutter. We go to declutter, but then it feels empty. It feels too open. So again, seeing this idea of something as empty and that it's a negative thing, it feels like a loss. So we need to reframe this as what the open space actually means. I love to call it potential, space to breathe. Second, the more open our lives are, the less we can hide. I've often thought clutter can be a protective mechanism. Physical clutter, even though we complain about it, keeps us tucked in tight, and in a way can also be a barrier to letting others get close to us. That's hard to admit sometimes, but when we're hurt, when we're trying to heal, when we are maybe introverted and really need our alone time, there can be habits that we get into related to our clutter that serve a purpose, even though we don't necessarily want the clutter that goes with it. When we clutter our schedules, it keeps us from having to listen to our own thoughts or admit weakness. After all, if you're doing too much and you don't do it that well, you have a built-in excuse. You are doing too much. And much like cluttering our schedules, when we allow our minds to be cluttered by busy work and games and just being constantly stimulated, it keeps us from the quiet where we must face ourselves and our trauma and our grief, our own dreams, and so much more. It's time to evaluate what you're letting into your life and why. And I realize that's a rather large category to consider, so we'll simplify it by considering spaces in your life and how you bring those things in. And today we'll review physical things, obligations and ideas, and scheduling. And let's start with the first, physical things. So there are two big areas that trip you up when it comes to things. One is allowing the obligation of gifts to keep you from limiting what you keep. Those are the things that people are giving you. It reminds me of an episode of The Big Bang Theory where Sheldon says, "You haven't given me a gift, you've given me an obligation," right? So he feels like he has to keep the gift and he has to give something back. So it's that kind of feeling. Now, the other side of physical things is our desire and often perceived need to buy things. All right, starting with what we receive from others. When it comes to gifts, it's essential to see your space and limitations as a priority over someone else's feelings. I know that's really hard when you are kind, when you have a heart, when you understand how important it is for someone else to give you something. But so often it's a really big them, not you situation that they need to give for whatever reasons they have. And I encourage you to practice phrases like, "I so appreciate that you would like me to have this, but it's an important family value of ours to be able to properly honor what we own, and we don't have the space for this." Sometimes you must say thank you and accept an item and then immediately donate it. And I promise you, it's very, very rare that someone's going to come check on it or ask you where something is. And if they do, feel like you have bigger issues with the relationship than what they're giving you as a gift and the clutter that goes along with it. I understand you want to be nice to the gift giver, but please remember that the person giving you the gift doesn't have to live with it like you do. And only you can know whether it's too much. As you move forward, communicate with others. If they ask what they can get you, be specific. Let them know that the best gift is one that will help you keep your space uncluttered. You can give them suggestions like experiences and consumables. And there are ways to give a gift like that where there's still something to wrap, because I know that's something that people love to do, have you unwrap something. If you'd like more ideas on this, check out episode 22 on clutter-free gift giving. The challenge of receiving what others feel the need to share with you also applies to areas like free gifts with purchase or information that people want to share. Often the value of a free item is perceived as far greater than the actual costs of keeping that item. Even if something is free to you, you still pay for it in some way with the space that you give up to keep it, the time to care for it. You are the steward of everything you own. Be sure each thing you have is worth your time and effort. It's where you want to be placing your time. Another area you may be gifted, so to speak, this type of clutter is information others want to share, like books and papers. I'm a member of multiple boards in the community as well as a programming committee. And when they want to share folders and brochures and handbooks, all kinds of printed materials, and sometimes they're beautifully done and they're really important information, I will often ask where I can reference this information online so that when I'm ready, I can access the information I need, I can appreciate it, but I'm not trying to hold on to paperwork that then adds to my clutter. I can review it on a site, or I can review it right there and leave the items with them. I may even take a picture of pertinent information to reference later, leave the rest behind, and it really helps me limit the paperwork I'm forced to file because that's one of my least favorite things. Now, the other side of the gift idea is, or the object, the physical things would be the purchasing. This is what you bring in by buying, and this is where being a discerning consumer is essential. What are your spending habits? Do you see a budget as a loose guideline or something that other people have? If so, you might be challenged even more. When you declutter an item, do you immediately seek to replace it with something new? What's the impetus behind the purchase? Or do you simply like retail therapy because you are stressed in other areas of your life? And quite frankly, shopping for many people can be fun. All of these tendencies are common, and society and marketers in particular are setting you up for this. They want you to feel like you are less than and you need to buy the next thing and that you need to have the stuff. So they're going to market it in a way that it sounds completely appealing. It's fun to purchase. You absolutely need it to be better than you are. And this is so common and it's such a trap. So consider some of these tactics to help. One, if you don't already work with a budget, set one to create a different kind of limit for yourself. In addition to a financial budget, consider a budget of items as well. This is a great technique I did with many clients when we would physically declutter. So, for example, if you know your bookshelf can hold 50 books, let's say, be mindful to keep that amount or less. So that means that if you want to bring one in, you need to bring another out. So it encourages you to declutter more. So it does mean if you want to buy more, you just need to declutter more. So yeah, you got me in a technicality and that totally works. As long as your financial budget allows this, go for it, have fun. In too many cases, we tend to buy more and hope for the best. So you really need to be intentional here. Here is where the space plan and the L in the simple system is so important. Now, two, if you love shopping, consider ways to create wish lists and window shop instead of actually shopping. Find ways to delay the actual purchases while still enjoying the research and wishing for the items and, dreaming about what you like. Give yourself some time to consider your best options to make sure that you have the space and maybe even to change your mind. Now, three would be if you need a way to buy regularly, this is something that you love to do, retail therapy, or just simply it's something you enjoy, it's entertainment for you. Consider doing it for others. You get to have the fun of the shopping, but it doesn't come home with you. I've encouraged a number of clients who felt this way and who have the means to enjoy shopping for donatable items to do things like find deals at a thrift store. But instead of bringing these items home, they go to others who need these items. And sometimes you can source on people's behalf. You can look in a marketplace on Facebook or, different kinds of groups where someone is in need of certain things and maybe someone who's had some kind of major catastrophe or accident in their lives and they are looking to rebuild a home. You can use your powers of shopping and that enjoyment of that for someone else. You don't bring the clutter home, but you make a huge difference. All right, so number two, let's talk about obligations and ideas. The reason I decided to add this category is for my people pleasers. I thought of you first. I've done a few episodes for you, including 110 on the most important boundary for people pleasers, and 117 on how to say no without feeling guilty or rude. Episode 235 adds to those with help on understanding when you must say no for a less stressful life. Saying no is an important part of our wellness and productivity, but it's often the hardest part of it. I will gently remind you that when we feel obligated, it can drain us more than we might expect. So be selective. And as I probably said in all three of those episodes I just mentioned, all yeses are also nos, and all nos are also yeses. The decision you make is not about saying yes or no, it's really about what you're saying yes and no to. And you want to make sure that's sustainable and satisfying. There's another side to adding too much to your to-dos that's not necessarily about being a people pleaser. It can overlap, but they don't necessarily connect. Sometimes it's about passions. As a multi-passionate creative, I know how fast and furious the ideas come to me and how much I want to explore the world. If you're like me and you learn quickly and always have a list of what's next for things that you want to learn and do and create, then you know it's so easy to add idea after idea to your to-do lists without much thought or worry. It's not a negative thing. You're innovating. But when it comes time to juggle them all, you can spread yourself too thin. And that's where burnout happens. Here's where the practice of something called a parking lot can help. This is where you collect the ideas and place them in a safe space to review. But you acknowledge that it's a not now. You can review and research, time permitted, but you're careful with how you proceed. It's important to understand that not every great idea needs to come to fruition. Not every great idea needs to be another side hustle. Sometimes the inspiration of an idea can be an important stepping stone to something even better. And this is especially so when we're mindful and intentional about the timing of it. So find a way to gather the ideas, enjoy that process just like you do with the shopping, but you're not keeping the clutter. You're setting it aside to review later. And sometimes 6 months down the road, you might review something and be like, well, that seemed like a good idea at the time, but not now. Or maybe it's the next great thing, and then you will move forward with it at just the right time with just the right energy. Okay, the third thing we're going to talk about is scheduling. This is a place I probably see the most struggle with because our calendars have these open blocks that seem so innocuous and full of potential. We don't realize what they really mean and what truly goes into what we schedule. The fact is, time blocks are rarely the time we expect them to be. And just as we need to be conservative when we create a spending budget, we must consider everything involved in our appointments and tasks when we schedule them and be conservative with what we choose to do. It may seem like we have plenty of time. Do not fall into that trap. For example, when you have an hour free between two appointments, there are so many reasons that that hour is not really an hour. If you have an appointment, there may be drive time. If it's between offices, how long does it actually take you to walk from one office to the next? And what about getting a snack? I never forget the snacks. Or what about a bathroom break? Just a moment to breathe, to stop, to pause, maybe to catch an unexpected phone call. Have you considered what you'll need to review or prepare for that meeting? Get your head in the game. Many times, other delays can cause a conflict for the next event as well. You're running late from one to the next. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's like putting fires out all the time. We are trying to step back and create space to avoid that. It's essential to have what I call buffer time in your calendar for all these reasons and more. And one of the least discussed aspects is ensuring that you are prepared for what's next, that you are being proactive instead of reactive. That makes so much difference in terms of your stress levels and your ability to focus and therefore show up your very best. Being prepared for what's next can be mental preparation and adjustment, like shifting mental gears, so to speak. It can also mean having the notes or tools for the job. Let's look at a grocery run as an example. When you plan to shop, do you have the grocery bags that you're going to use? We use the recyclable or reusable bags here in New York. And do you have a list with you so you know exactly what you need and where? How long does it take you to get there and back? Are there any other errands you need to do before and after? And will that work with your perishable food items? Do you have the bags or storage that you need for that? What about the time it takes to get the food home and to pack it away? I'm not even talking about like meal prep, although it's great to be able to build that in to like prep veggies for snacks and things like that. But I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about simply getting home with the food, bringing it inside, packing it away. All of these things take time that you need to consider when you're scheduling this out. Now, I'll grant you, there are ways to make these kinds of tasks efficient, so it'll work within the time you have, and I do that quite a bit. Some days I'll do a partial grocery run. Sometimes I'll get non-perishables only because I'm going to be running other errands afterwards, and it's just easier that way. I always have an ongoing grocery list in my phone that I can prioritize and split out as needed. And I even have the list in order of the store layout so I can get in and out very fast. And sometimes I'll challenge myself to get extra steps in and go as quickly as possible. So I'm almost taking the grocery store at a jog. All those things are great, but I still get caught with delays. And I bring this up because overscheduling is a common challenge. So, just as I encourage you to embrace an open drawer or a partially filled cabinet, I also encourage you to leave blank space on your calendar. Blank space is not empty, it's potential. You can accomplish this by being selective with what you say yes or no to, by encouraging lots of space surrounding the things that you already have there. And I know that it can take some getting used to at first, especially when your usual approach is to pack your day full or pack your closet full. It's going to feel weird and open at first. But I promise you, once you design your life with room to breathe, room to move, room to make decisions, you'll be amazed at what a difference it can make. Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. If you have feedback or questions, you can find me through the Connect page of the positivelyproductive.com website. And if you're looking for any of the resources mentioned here, from books to products to training and more, go to positivelyproductive.com/resources.